Hi, my name is 𝗩𝗶𝘃𝗀𝗏, and I am the host from Let's Humanize the Workplace. As a workplace wellness advocate, I help companies with keeping their people healthy, happy, and safe. And of course, I'm going to share a few bits, but I'm really, can you notice my excitement? I am really excited to to talk to our guest speakers today, but also excited to just discuss a few topics that I have for you. So first of all, let me know if you can see the broadcast on LinkedIn. I haven't seen anything, so I can see something. Say hi, because I am going to do a shout out. So if you're joining this session from LinkedIn or from Twitter or from YouTube or from Facebook, just let me know so that I can say hi to you and also include you in this conversation and share the love. Share the love. So for those of you who are Team Live, I'm Team Live from Amsterdam, the Netherlands, but I'm also curious to hear where you're from. So are you watching this episode from Asia, or are you watching this episode from somewhere in Africa, maybe Ghana or South Africa? Maybe you're watching the show from the States. That can also be, right? East Coast, West Coast, wherever it is that you want to be, just share it with me, because I'm really curious about where this broadcast is reaching. So if you're watching the replay, hi, my name is 𝗩𝗶𝘃𝗀𝗏𝗏, and I'm really curious about where you're from and how you got to this broadcast. So today, this lady posted this post today, and I thought I really have to speak on it. So Madison Butler, if you're not following her, follow her. Just say that Vivian asked you to follow her. She's sharing a few tips, because since the coronavirus has break out, there are a few things that are happening that isn't humanizing the world anymore. We are dehumanizing people. And she shared some valuable tips, and I wanted to emphasize on. So please, regarding the corona, right? Regarding the coronavirus, please treat people like people and don't treat them like an outcast. I'm not going to refer to certain races, but please don't dehumanize people. Don't be a racist. Wash your hands. Use soap. Use water. Wash your hands. Don't touch your face. Don't touch somebody else's face. Don't touch somebody else's hands. Use this greeting. Like I see. So what I do when I try to greet people, I say namaste, which is a respectable way to greet somebody without touching them. And here in the Netherlands, it's common that you shake hands or you touch somebody in an appropriate way. Appropriate. But and it's also another way for creating environments where people can work from home or where people can work remotely. So if your company or your organization is offering you a way to work remotely, use that as an opportunity to work remotely. And also organizations or HR or those of you who are in charge of the remote working, facilitate it for people. Make it easy for people to work remotely, because I want people to be safe and I want people to be healthy and also to be happy. But the most important thing now is to keep your people safe. So, and wash your hands. I don't want to say what she's saying, but wash your hands. Maybe too often, just wash your hands. Another thing that I wanted to share was shared on LinkedIn about tips from working remotely. So if you have some guidelines of some procedures that where people can look at for working remotely, or they need to install certain software to work remotely, look at this post from Monica Ficke to see what kind of tips she is sharing, because I do feel that in this day of age, we're living in 2020, and a lot of people don't have the facility to work remotely, or don't have the opportunity to work remotely, don't even have the opportunity to work flexible. If you can facilitate it for your employees to work remotely, please look at this guideline, or please look at these tips. And if you need to update your guidelines, also look at these tips, because having this conversation. I mean, I'm going to talk to my guest speaker now, and she is sitting from her home. I'm sitting in the comfort from my own home, and we are still having this conversation. So for those of you who are maybe canceling events, live events, know that there is an opportunity to do a live stream. Know that there is an opportunity to still have that conversation ongoing while people can still watch or still can attend. I know there's a different dynamic when you're doing a live stream or where you're doing an online engagement, but there are ways to prevent people from going to a live event without it being canceled. And that's this platform or another platform where you can live stream. So please make use of that. Another thing that I wanted to discuss is gratitude. It's free, it's easy, it's something that will help you retain your coworkers or your team members or your employees. And it's such an easy thing to do, but not a lot of people do that too often, or not a lot of people do it at all. And if you can express a gratitude towards somebody, just by sharing what a great job have you done, or in the meantime, not at the end of the project, but maybe in the beginning or in the meantime, to use words of encouragement so that people can, feel grateful, feel wanted, and feel also valued for the effort that they are taking. So with this definition, gratitude, we put a lot of effort into keeping our talent, but also a lot of effort into bringing it on. But have you given it some thought to just plan the moments that you are expressing your gratitude? And please let it be authentic, because I don't want you to be fake about being grateful. Be authentic about it, and also show your interest in a person, so that you can help them grow, and that you can encourage them to do better, to do great, and become a better person in the workplace. So it's also good for building resilience. So like I said, saying thank you or saying that you are grateful for something, it's an easy, free thing to do without investing that much of your time. So the things that I wanted to share is start at the top. So if there are any managers watching, or if there are any C-level suites watching, just let me know. Okay, my son is coming in. He's going to say goodbye. That's our daily ritual, because otherwise I won't see him. Zeg je ook nog gedag? Hoi. Ja, ga maar slapen. So that's my gratitude moment. Otherwise I won't see him, put him into, mostly this is the time for him to go to bed. But start at the top. It's important that you express your gratitude with those who are there. And Melissa is sharing, he's so lovely. Start at the top, and thank you, Melissa. And also create a space for recognition. It's important that when you want to express gratitude, at least create a space where people can feel safe to express their gratitude, and celebrate the small wins, right? We don't have to wait until that big client is in, but encourage your team members to share the small wins. And there are so many steps here, but I just want to share that gratitude can do so much for building a positive culture. And again, it's free. So if you want to know more about ways about how to express your gratitude, then reach out to me, Vivian Aqua, and I'm going to bring in our next guest speaker. So this lady, Melissa Romero. Melissa is a purpose-driven go-getter, until recently leading the Gillette business from France and Benelux. And on top of her job, she's living her purpose to giving others a voice and help close the gender gap by starting Lean In Netherlands. Together with a fantastic team, and she has an amazing team, so she's shaping the world for a new definition of leadership. Welcome, Melissa.
Thank you, Vivian. Thank you for having me.
So, are you excited?
I am very excited. I was looking forward to this.
So I'm going to ask you the first question, because I think that a lot of people don't know what lean-in is. So can you share what lean-in is and what is your personal drive to become a lean-in advocate in the Netherlands?
Yeah, absolutely. So 𝗀𝗏 is a global NGO, is a nonprofit organization that was founded and started by Sheryl Sandberg. She's the COO of Facebook. And it started when she wrote the book with the same name, 𝗀𝗏. And at the end, she wanted to give people a call to action. She wanted to invite people to keep the conversation going. And because there was at the time not so many women at the top that could mentor other women, she decided to create what we call lean-in circles. And lean-in circles are small groups of people, men and women, that come together once a month to actually learn a new skill, but also take one action monthly for their own development, and the rest of the circle holds them accountable. So basically that sparkled a huge grassroots movement that is right now live in 172 countries with more than 44,000 lean-in circles. Here in the Netherlands, we actually have 32 of them, and we are a community of about 1,000 people here in the Netherlands. And that also sparkled via the book of Sheryl, the conversation that needed to restart after decades being silent. You know, we are in the fourth feminist revolution, that's how they call it. And part of that revolution was sparkled by the book of Sheryl Sandberg.
Okay, and how did you come across lean-in?
Yeah, well, basically, like a lot of people, I read the book, and I'm an engineer by education, and I consider myself to be very data-driven. I was very triggered by the fact that a third of the book was the references, so the research for it. A lot of hardcore data on, you know, what happens with children, for example, that are being raised by full-time working moms versus not, you know, and how there is no proof, you know, that you know, it's just a personal choice. It doesn't mean that you're a best or a worse mom if you decide to go for a full-time job or staying at home. That's perfectly respectable. So that triggered me first. Second, the call to action, because I think so many times we read books that are very inspirational, but you know, at the end you are like, so what? Or maybe you kind of forget about it. So that inspired me to, you know, start a circle in Amsterdam, because there was not that many circles at the time. And well, this thing just basically took off. You could see that there was so much of a need for it that after a couple of months, you know, other circle founders, small circle founders were like reaching out. And then we decided to get together and start 𝗀𝗏 Netherlands officially. And then it became really official when we got a call from Palo Alto inviting us to make part of the global regional leadership of 𝗀𝗏, from which, I am kind of the leader for the Netherlands. And like me, we are 90 around the world to represent the 𝗀𝗏 movement. And
can you maybe share how old your organization is? Because I think it's really remarkable what you have done in such a short time.
Officially, and you know, as an established stichting in the Netherlands, it's been 2 years. So we're very, very young still. But we're growing and we're learning massively. So it has been quite a ride from just deciding to get together with the others to see how we could leverage the network and give more impact to the members of the network, to receive that call from Palo Alto and saying, hey, would you like to come to Silicon Valley in 3 weeks from now, because we are having our global convention with all the other 89 leaders. And, you know, being at the house of Sheryl Sandberg, all of a sudden it's like very flabbergasting. But yeah, it also was absolutely a proud moment to make sure that, you know, to notice that what we're doing matters and that people are noticing it. So that's really good.
I'm proud.
Thanks.
But that's why I have the next question. What advice would you have given yourself 10 years ago, and why?
Yeah, it's funny because when we were off the broadcast, we were talking things, imposter syndrome and others. I think 10 years ago, I would have said to my younger self, don't let anybody tell you what you cannot do. Especially, well, I have been living now in Europe for about 15 years, but I'm originally from Colombia. And obviously this is a culture where gender roles are very defined, and where I heard a lot growing up, you cannot do this, or you should not be do this because girls don't do this. Talk about, sports and things like that, and the way you're dressed, etc. So I think I would have told myself, it doesn't matter. Don't let anybody make you believe that you cannot do what you want to do. So
that's a good advice. And can you share why we need to reshape or shape the new definition of leadership?
Yeah, so here
What's
you
wrong
are.
with the current one?
Exactly. So basically for Leaning Netherlands, obviously we are Leaning org is a global organization, and it's a little bit kind of think global, act local. So for the Netherlands specifically, we decided to shape our mission for something that will be relevant for the country. Obviously, the Netherlands is a very advanced country in many fronts, and we are very proud of that. But we also realized that the model of leadership, or the box where we put good leaders or so-called good leaders, is a very old-fashioned one. And if you look at the reasons or the traits of that type of leadership, come back to the 50s or the 40s, after the war, after the women had been out there working in the factories, then kind of baby booming started, and then the workplace or offices were mainly men. And the few women that were there, obviously you need to behave in a way that you can fit in. So then they started kind of emulating those behaviors, whereby to be a good leader you need to be the loudest in the room, or to be a good leader you need to be the most aggressive, or the most assertivity is of course important, but that doesn't shape who a lot of people are. So in our mission for the Netherlands, which is helping shape a new definition of leadership where everybody can be 100% themselves and still make it to whatever their ambition are, right? So if your ambition is to be, a CEO, or your ambition is to be a florist or a school teacher, or whatever your ambition is, that you are not kind of put in a corner if you don't behave according to an old type leadership. And by the way, Vivian, that goes beyond gender. When we wanted to make this a little bit broader, because if you look at role modeling and at the people that are in powerful positions, if I am a young girl, do I see myself as a prime of the Netherlands? But also, if I am a brown boy, would I see myself as being the next prime minister of the Netherlands? So that was extremely important for us, that we could include other genders, other ethnicities, and any religions or sexual preference or whatever. You just have the right to be 100% yourself and still achieve your max potential.
Definitely. But it brings me back to what Obama shared recently, because I saw this article. And this article made me want to say, okay, I need to have a conversation with Melissa, because this is totally up her alley. So Obama is sharing, women are indisruptibly better leaders and old men need to get out of the way. So the statement that he made is, now, woman, I just want you to know you're not perfect, but what I can say pretty indisputably is that you're better than us men. That's what Obama said. I am absolutely confident that for 2 years, if every nation on earth was run by women, you would see a significant improvement across the board on just about everything, living standards and outcome. Do you agree with this statement? Why yes and why no?
Well, you need to understand also that Barack Obama is a brilliant speaker, and he knows exactly what he's doing here, right? He's playing the role, as you say, as the top ally. I think we should not take him also out of context. Obviously, we are a society made by men and women, and we should make sure that we have everybody included there. But what I love, and the part of the provocation that he's trying to bring into the table, is we have only seen one side of the coin, one
True.
part of the spectrum represented at high levels of leadership and decision making. You know, currently, you know, women are underrepresented everywhere. Only 7% of women are CEOs. Only, I think, 19 nations are right now led by women. So what he's putting at the table is, if it was the other way around, we would savor a different type of leadership and things that, honestly, you don't know what you don't know. So, you know, if you haven't experienced what it is to be a pregnant woman, which, for example, I haven't experienced, I cannot know how it is to be in your shoes, even though I am a woman. So if, you know, I think it's very important that women are included in the conversation and in decision making, because they will be representing half of the population that are like them in a way.
You mentioned something very important that I didn't even touch on: allyship. Because it's not only that we lean in standing for, you know, supporting and empowering men, but lean in also includes we need to find our allies in other genders. Can you share something about that? Why it is important to have those allies in the workplace or maybe in your business to level up your career or your business?
Yeah, so you said that leaning is not only focusing in empowering and supporting men, but actually it's empowering and supporting women, of course. But
no, sorry, yes,
and,
sorry,
and
excuse
obviously
me.
the allyship is
Yeah.
it's extremely important. Actually, I would argue a lot of people kind of glorify the ally as, you know, the men ally. I think beyond glorifying them, men, I think it's important to know that they're not doing a favor to anybody. You know, like, I think that sometimes it can be taken out of context when we are like having organizations or ERGs like women at X corporates, and then we wonder like, okay, but where are the men? Obviously, if there is something called women ads, yeah, you need to make sure that they also feel invited to the conversation. But also on their side, I think it's also important that they know that you're not doing anybody a favor. You're doing yourself also a favor, because simply, I mean, reaching parity in terms of gender would only open up for the max potential that the world can have to offer. Imagine if you have, you know, a football team where you're only using, you know, 6 of the players or 5 of the players instead of 11 on them. You know, we all have great capacities and great brains, and we are not represented out there. So the fact of having allies is just simply important, because sometimes, and you know, we have a lot of research that proves that we help people and we support people that look like us unconsciously. Right? So by men breaking on the stereotype of helping only people that look like them, you know, they can be part of these, you know, full potential to be achieved in leadership, in companies, in governments, etc. So it's not that they're doing anybody a favor. It's just very important that they realize that they're doing the whole society a favor.
Yeah, and also I'm going a bit off script now, because you're touching a bit base on inclusive diversity. When it comes to that, and I had a discussion last week with my guest speaker about it not being lip service anymore. What do we need to do or what do companies need to do to go beyond that lip servicing?
Yeah, that's a very, very good point. I was yesterday part of a panel at Shell, and I was you know, pleasantly surprised to see how they're also male, you know, general managers and managers of others were taking the extra mile to go, you know, beyond the policy, really taking action, right? So we have a lot of policies. For example, in the Netherlands is 5 days parental leave for the non-giving birth, I think it's paternal leave even, so only for the men. And there, you know, they were talking about from this year, I think in July, the Netherlands will be going to, I think it's 7 or 8 weeks, but 70% paid. So they're looking into actually filling up the gap for those 30%. So that,
and that's with Shell. That's with Shell, right? Because let it be clear, because a lot of companies don't do this.
No, like my company where I used to work till very recently, Procter and
Mm-hmm.
Gamble, we decided European wise a year
Mm-hmm.
ago to go to 8 weeks fully paid parental leave for the non-giving birth parent. So,
Wow.
companies like Uber that are giving 18 weeks to both parents
Mm-hmm.
equally paid. You have come like I feel like the tech companies are the ones that are ahead. Facebook is offering 16 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
but there are certain companies that just stick to the bare minimum, which is those 5 days, right? So
Yeah.
I think beyond paying lip service, you need to adjust your own internal policies to go beyond whatever is the legal bare minimum,
Mm-hmm.
but also as a manager yourself. So this person was telling how his wife happens to work full time as well as him. They
Mm-hmm.
have 3 kids, and he was saying he has learned from the experience of his wife of going back,
Yeah.
how difficult it can be, but also that doesn't mean that she doesn't have the ambitions, etc. So he was even, double checking with the people that they were really promoting people just back from maternity leave. So that's
Mm-hmm.
quite a statement to say you can go and have a kid and come back to another level if you deserve it, but also helping them to land, having that open conversation, what works for you.
Yeah.
How can I
Yeah.
help you? Because I realize it's not easy just to come to a really much more busier thing when you also have a much more busier life back at home.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
helping build it up, for example, until, that person, but it's really having the conversation. It's just not deciding for her like, oh, she's just had a baby, so maybe a promotion will be too much for her. No, it's about, I think you're capable of doing this, and I recognize you might have different needs at this time.
Mm-hmm. And it's also common that we regarding the topic, right? I shared it with a lot of people that people fill in other people's stories, and in the Netherlands we have something like that, but I'm not going to share it because otherwise it will be conflicting with your own brand. But there is this saying that um, without even realizing or without even talking to somebody, you're filling somebody else's story without even knowing their background. And we should stop that. We just have the conversation with the person and ask them, is it true? I'm seeing such and such. Is it true? Or where do you want to go? Just have that conversation with your coworker, with your team member, to know where their head is at.
Absolutely. And if I may build on that, Vivian,
Mm-hmm.
you might be aware that together, leading together with Stanford University,
Mm-hmm.
have developed this program called 50 Ways to Fight
Yeah.
Bias.
Yes,
And
definitely.
it is rooted on more than 20 years of research of the VMware women studies at Stanford. And it is fantastic because it draws the top 6 biases that are holding women back in the workplace. And you would be surprised how, maternal bias is the one that is
Mm.
affecting women the most. Why?
Yeah.
Because, and we have all faced it, because we just want to kind of protect the women and not including them in that, as you're saying, filling in the story for her, without even taking into consideration that can be really, really holding her back for
Mm-hmm.
potential opportunities or,
Not
progression.
only that, the lady might leave, and that's not a huge knowledge drain. And besides it being a knowledge drain, it can hurt your company in the short end or in the long end, because the lady is going to go to events. She's going to have the conversation with her friends or with her family, saying that I didn't feel at place. Now I'm a new mother.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, very true. So thanks.
I think you know this lady.
Oh.
Thank you, Adriana. Am I pronouncing it right, Adriana? I hope so. Thank you for the love. So, the 50 biases. I'm going to share a link after this episode. I'm going to share a link of the 50 biases, unconscious biases, because it's a very important card system that we need to have a discussion about. We need to have that discussion openly in the workplace, because we all have biases. I have my biases, Melissa has her biases, and you have your biases. But there are so many biases that are holding other people back from promotion, from making a decision that is maybe affecting their work life integration. What do people need to do if they want to learn more about the bias, except for
Yeah,
me sharing the link?
Yeah, that's great that you are saying. Well, people can reach out to me or to our
Mm-hmm.
head of partnerships, 𝗥𝘀𝘀𝘁𝗄.
Mm-hmm.
Kat,
Yeah.
so you can tag her along as well.
Yeah.
Right now, a lot of companies are inviting us to their offices to actually deliver the workshop. It
Mm-hmm.
is a workshop about, we can make it 1 hour, but that's really too short. So preferably two
Mm-hmm.
hours, where
A
we
whole
share
day. It
a
should
whole
be
day.
a
But
whole day.
we could actually be playing the whole day because
No,
there's so
really,
many.
it should
Yeah,
be
yeah.
because there are so many layers that need to be discussed. And maybe a half a day for a half the pack because there are so many biases that people don't realize how hurtful it can be
Exactly.
for the other party.
And well, basically, the card game, it's a very playful game.
Mm-hmm.
It
Mm-hmm.
focuses on the top 6 biases, but
Mm-hmm.
it's about really cards that show us situations, really
Yeah.
work life situations that happen every single day.
Yeah.
So, for example, and then in a group, you read the situation out loud, you learn about the theory, where it comes from, where the bias is rooted, and then
Mm-hmm.
together you have a conversation with your colleagues, and that
Yeah.
has proven to be very powerful, because sometimes you're the only one in the table that has no clue that existed or that happened, and then you are confronted to 5 other people in the table saying, yes, I've been there, or I have seen that happening. So it's a lovely program, and we will be more than happy to help people and organizations to bring this to their workplaces.
Let me see what's my next question. What is your solution for decreasing the global gender pay gap?
Yeah, that's such a big problem, and as
Mm-hmm.
by now it's going to be, I think, about 202 years that the World Economic Forum is estimating for us globally
Mm-hmm.
to close the gender pay gap. Is just very sad. But if I focus only in, because obviously you can look at it as a totality, the money that women have versus the money that men have,
Yeah.
and obviously therein you have a lot of women are disproportionately working part-time, or performing non-paid care activities at home,
Mm-hmm.
etc. But imagine that we are in a situation where you have 2 people working on the same job, the same amount of hours,
Yeah.
and there is still a gap that is unexplained.
Yeah.
That of the gap, that's where we really need to go and tackle.
Yeah.
And I would view it from different standpoints. From the top of the companies, we need to make sure that that gap is measured, and that
Yeah.
the companies are held accountable for it, and that they correct for it. Last year in April, I had the great opportunity to be in a Silicon Valley study trip
Mm-hmm.
with 30 executives of the Netherlands,
Mm-hmm.
and we had the chance to visit the headquarters of Salesforce, the global
Mm-hmm.
headquarters, and their global diversity. They have kind of the chief diversity officer, so at the top, and they perform what was a very difficult exercise, to check across functions, across levels, if there was a gender gap, and they decided to correct for it.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
is a very bold move, and it's not a cheap move, but you're basically catching up and just being fair and putting the money where the mouth is.
It's definitely not a cheap move, but then again, you're doing the right thing, which pays back
Exactly.
towards your customers, but it also pays back towards you caring for your employees, because the last thing that you want to do or want to create is an environment where somebody feels undervalued or underpaid while they're doing a great job. I also want to share a few comments from the people. So Andreina is sharing, very much right. Thanks, ladies. A very common bias at the work is, I don't think you're ready for the next step, without even giving the benefit of the doubt. So men tend to be trusted from their potential, and women on their performance. How can we break this bias?
Absolutely. And that actually brings me to, we talk about the top, but then if you start looking at the levels in the organization, it is also the responsibility for managers and for people that have salary decisions to really check up indeed on their numbers, but also on their biases. And this is what Andreina is saying has also been proven by our research together with Stanford University. Indeed.
But don't you feel like the employee also has a responsibility to address this? Yeah.
That would be, for me, the third part of the solution. I think everybody has a role to play.
Yes,
so
definitely.
In terms of, how can we break this bias? It is, unconscious bias is unconscious. So you don't know that you have it. And it is, important to raise awareness. But we also know that only an unconscious bias training here and there doesn't help. Just being aware is not enough. People need to really change behaviors. And to change behaviors, you really need to practice. So what I love about, sorry to keep, going about the program, but
just do it. Just do it. Yeah.
That basically what it does is, if you have a pack of these cards and you are, imagine just starting a team meeting every week with one of the cards, reading out loud the situation, discussing, it just creates, how they say that if you do something for 21 days, then it becomes a habit. For me,
you're planting a seed. You're planting a seed in which they are nourishing. They can, they can nourish their unconscious bias tree by raising awareness and do something about that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And then and then linked to that, and let's say the part of what the employee has, the role that the employee has to play, we need to also raise awareness about the fact that women are entering salary conversations from a complete blind spot, from a complete different standpoint that a man enters. Basically, men know that they go to negotiate and that they are ready to leave the table if the money is not there. A lot of times women enter those conversations. I'm not generalizing. I'm not saying that, everybody does that, but a lot of us do enter those conversations like, hoping that we get a good appraisal, but not ready to ask for the money. Why? Because it's proven that we are also expected to be more, communal and caregivers. And there is indeed, again, the bias that if the woman asserts herself and, she can be perceived as aggressive or too pushy or whatnot, but you would not be behaving in the same way because you expect from the guy to be, aggressive, and then is seen as a leader or as assertive, right? So it is.
It reminds me so much about the video that has been viral from last week. The lady from Sex in the City, which shared, "I'd be a lady." Yes, of course. Yeah.
Never enough. Yes. Yeah. So indeed, it's about raising awareness, but broadly, and then just keep on practicing on keeping, double checking on yourself.
Join a Lean In circle.
For example, we can hold
yes, definitely.
Sure.
Definitely. So Niam is saying great conversations, well done. And Sonia is sharing, hey. So coming back to our conversation, because I still have a lot to ask you, but then again, we're short on time. What are you focusing on this year with Lean In?
Yes. So, for us, we have decided this year to focus a little bit more. We used to be offering monthly events. And for us, events is a great, place to nurture the network. And those events were not networking events, were, as you know, skill building events. So we had the storytelling, we had, things like how to network authentically, those kind of stuff. And those are very well regarded by the community. What we do know is that when you go to an event, it kind of, you absorb what you absorb and then you leave and then you practice, hopefully not. To be perfectly honest here, our agenda in those events is really at the beginning and at the end of the event to invite people to join Lean In circles, because that's where we have seen the changes really happening. Imagine the multiplication effect that this has when every month you commit to one action towards your own development and you have a crew, your squad holding you accountable for it. If all of us would do this, I think we will be much more further. So Lean In circles is how we really make the change, and that's going to be one of our core focuses for this year. So instead of monthly events, we're right now going to be doing quarterly events, and on top of that, quarterly, what we call a circles factory, which is an event where you come just to pilot what a circle meeting is like, and then you can remove your doubts, and then thereby straight away you can start your own circle or join a circle immediately.
Yeah. So will there be no big event? Because I was looking for that one.
Yes, so we, as you know, we also have a conference once a year. Last
Mm-hmm.
year, we held it in November, where we had the pleasure and the honor to host, 𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗏𝗃, among other great speakers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. For this year, we actually are just kicking it off, and with the whole COVID-19 is kind of challenging. We are already, experiencing that. We wanted to maybe advancing, but we are seeing also other events that are trying to move. So it's most likely going to be also again this year at the end of the year. So you will hear more
Mm-hmm.
from us when things are progress a little bit more, that we know a little bit more how the situation is going to progress.
Yeah. Are you thinking maybe about doing an online event, or just in case?
Actually, an online event is something that we have considered for our quarterly sessions
Mm-hmm.
more. But you have been there last year for the conference, and the year before
It
as
was
well.
amazing. It was
The
amazing. Yeah.
energy that you get there, the
Yeah.
contacts, the
Yeah.
the quality. I am all for this kind of virtual
Mm-hmm.
spaces. But as if you really want to humanize
Yeah,
the
I know.
if it's once a year,
Don't
then I
use my
think
word
it's worth.
against me.
No, of course, but
No,
you know what I
I
mean. Like, if
know.
it's once a
Yeah,
year, it's great to come
yeah,
together in face to
definitely,
face. Yeah.
definitely.
Mm.
The last question: what is your hope, your wish for 2025 when it comes to humanizing the workplace and new leadership?
Yeah, and I love this question because it's very tied to one another. Basically, new
Mm-hmm.
leadership is about being 100% the human being that you are, which
Mm-hmm.
will basically definitely tied with humanizing the workplace. My wish, really, Vivian, would be that all the initiatives that are starting to take place right now in the Netherlands, like quotas and whatnot, and I know that there is a lot of people against quotas. I am really
Mm-hmm.
for
Can
having.
you be specific about the quotas, because I don't think that everybody knows what we're dealing here in the Netherlands.
Yeah, so in the Netherlands, the 𝗏𝗃𝗃𝗵, so the government has right now, voted and approved the fact that we want to go
Mm-hmm.
for at least 30% of women on boards
Yeah.
of publicly traded companies in the
Yes.
Netherlands.
And we want it for all companies. We want
And
it
we
for
want it for all
all
companies, not
companies.
only for publicly traded ones, of course.
Yes.
But I'm really hoping that by 2025 we hopefully can go even beyond that, and in a
Mm-hmm.
natural way, not because there is an
A
imposition of
quota.
the
Yeah.
government and a quota, but because actually a lot of companies say, oh, but I cannot find those women. Those women are
Mm-hmm.
out there, and there is increasingly more recruiters that are focusing on getting those women right to your door in a silver plate. So
Yeah.
it is a responsibility of the companies also to have mixed slates of candidates. So it is proven that
Mm-hmm.
if 1 out of 4 candidates is a woman, her chances to be hired is 0 because of the biases. If it's
Yeah.
1 man in 4, his chances are still 15%.
Yeah.
So
True.
basically, we need to make sure that we are recruiting from a diverse pool, and from there, of course, you take the most preferred candidate, the person that is the best, when you
Mm-hmm.
have cleaned out for biases. But you cannot expect simply that having 1 out of 10 being a woman, statistically, it's just impossible that you will recruit a woman.
True.
So
There is a company though that reached out last week with a huge PR, Unilever, which said they have a 50-50 definition now in the boards, male and female,
at
which
a
is
manager level, yes.
yes, and that's huge, right? We want to see more of that. So those of the companies that want to follow the footsteps of Unilever, big up to you, because I'm going to do a shout out to you.
Yes, I know. I'm really, I was very touched about
Mm-hmm.
also the video that they posted on Unilever.
Yeah.
I think it's a big accomplishment. I hope that this is gonna put a little bit of the pressure
Mm-hmm.
on the rest of the companies to actually follow the steps
Yeah.
of Unilever. That also reminds me, our latest Women in the Workplace McKinsey study in partnership with
Mm-hmm.
Lini shows us that we're talking a lot about the glass ceiling, Vivian, but there is an even earlier problem, which is called the broken rung. We have in the Netherlands, out of all graduates, 56% of graduates are women. By the time they reach management position, only 25% are women. By the time of C level, of course, it's 6% only. But how the hell do we get to see and to, coming to decision-making positions if in between, graduating, so much potential that doesn't even make it to managers. So the broken rung on the ladder, we need to fix it.
We need to level up the mentorship. We need to do something to help not only women. Let's say the minority who are not represented in different levels.
Absolutely.
We need to level up. On different levels, we need to level up. So there is no more excuse in we can't find them. If you can't find them, you have these two beautiful ladies who are representing now. And if you can't find them, we will use our network to find that person. To find that person.
Absolutely. So, and I'm reading here that Andreina is saying, about the quotas in order to become natural. The truth in her statement is also the fact that we should not forget that we're catching up. Like only 100 years ago, we were not even allowed to vote. Like I wouldn't have been able to have my own bank account. It would have been via receiving money via my husband. So it is important to know that virtually everybody thinks and expects the world to already be equal. Actually, we're not there yet. And it's because we are slowly catching up. It's great everything that our ancestor women did for us. I'm so recognizant, really grateful for that. But there's still work to do. We still have catching up to do.
We need allies. We need allies across all genders, all backgrounds. We need allies. So, and the reason why I'm saying this, because sometimes I hear the conversation that we're pointing towards men, but know that men are also experiencing their challenges, and know that sometimes women can be not helping each other out. So that's why I'm sharing that we need allies, and we need them from different backgrounds, different generations, different demographics, because we need them to level up.
Absolutely, what you're saying is so true. We also know, from our bias research, we also know that both men and women are as biased about women. So we need to make sure that we break the biases in both genders, and also what you were saying regarding the role that men have to play. If we start having parental leave, it is important that for those young parents that are starting to take the days off, that we respect that. Because also from the experience yesterday, for example, where one young mother was sharing, we both are working part-time, my husband and I, but in his office, they are still booking meetings on his free day. And how, they don't dare to do that with me, because they're more considerate with moms, because that's my role, that's my day at home. So what happens is he needs to show up at work on his free day, and the burden again passes to her, because then she needs to take off from work to go to the 𝗪𝗪𝘀𝗵 or to do whatever thing around the day that was, the father was.
I mean, we need to step away from the traditional way of managing a family. Nowadays, I do it together with my partner, and without him, I couldn't be doing this. And it's a joint effort, right? The one time I help, and the other time he helps. We have to split the parental roles. We have to split that, and we have to see that the traditional roles, I'm not saying that they are dead, but there's a new way of raising a family. There's a new way of taking care of an elder, if you're taking care of a loved one, where you need more hours. So we need to look into that.
And talk about the mental health part, right? Sorry. Yeah, but having I know, I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I could talk for hours, and
I know.
Definitely I'm going to ask Melissa back, because we have so much to share. But I have to announce next week a few of the broadcasts that I'm doing this week and next week. So I'll definitely bring Melissa back, so that will give you, the viewer, the time to think about the question, or think about the topic that you want me to have a discussion with Melissa, because we're thinking about a few things, but it would also be helpful for you to share with me what you want me to ask her, or what kind of topic do you want us to bring up, because it has been amazing. So thank you, Melissa. Don't go away. I'm announcing the people from next week, but the time flew. So thank you again.
Thank you.
So next week. So tomorrow, 10 a.m., Wednesday, 10 a.m., I have a Dutch broadcast. I have to move the banner away. I have a Dutch broadcast about breastfeeding, about nursing, now about the mother's room. So pumping at work, 𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗀𝗏𝗃 op het werk. It's 10 o'clock. After that, I have a very interesting conversation with 𝗏𝗃𝗀𝗁 about why I quit my job. And if you Google her post, why I quit my job with 𝗏𝗃𝗀𝗁, you will see a lot of interesting things, which I'm not going to share yet. But if you Google it, then you can see why I'm speaking to her and what she shared in that letter. The next day will be a morning edition. So Tuesday, 10 a.m. It's because Natasha lives in Asia, and that's why I'm doing it 10 a.m. It's about the power of working moms. I wanted to address this conversation about the benefits of working moms, but also address some of the topics that I'm going to share tomorrow, where we need to, be make the workplace inclusive for working moms. So I'm definitely going to address that. And the next day after, I have a Dutch broadcast, Thursday. It will be 10 a.m. in the morning, about 𝗩𝗍, and 𝗩𝗍 is a Dutch company who's helping the people from purpose, autonomy, and so much more. And it will be an interesting conversation, but it will be in Dutch. So that's it for now. If you have any questions, please let me know. And thank you, Sonia. Thank you, Andreina, for joining in the conversation. I really enjoyed it that you shared your things. And also Niam, thank you for joining in. And if you have any questions regarding this episode, please know you can share them with me and tag Melissa or tag me in it when you're watching it from LinkedIn so that I can address that. Thank you for watching. Bye.